Okay guys, so welcome back to our Investing in Asia series. This is the third video, and if you're still watching, thank you. If you're one of the 8 people from the first video, we've had a lot of issues. I'm still getting to learn and optimize using YouTube with various audio visual equipment. It's definitely been a learning experience in a positive way, but if you're joining, thanks for watching. We're going to go through our investing in Asia for calendar week 12, 2025. So moving in on the Singaporean, Thai, and Japanese markets, financial markets, public equity markets, more so. We're going to keep track of some of the top companies that we're looking at there. And if you're new to the channel, we're bringing more or less Asia content in terms of travel, finance, and the road less traveled in terms of interesting content that might be helpful for you traveling or investing. We've brought content such as price of living from Cambodia, from various of markets. And very much the target audience here is for Westerners who are either living here, thinking about moving to Southeast Asia, and for tourists maybe staying on a staycation longer than 1 or 2 days, or maybe you do actually just want to see the price of quality products. The purpose is to help people either be in their travels or on their investment journey. So sharing some of that knowledge along the way. I myself have a lot of investment experience. I have an MBA. I've worked in business for over 15 years from basically business point of view, other functional roles, but I've been a lifelong investor and student of the markets. I would say successful. I've had my fair share of learnings from, I've survived 2 market crashes. And yeah, I've seen the other side of both of those crashes. I'd also say that 2022 was a massive crash that nobody really, I would call it the unclaimed or uncalled crash, because many of the high growth tech stocks were down minus 80% plus during the time of rate hikes post the pandemic. So we'll get into the market today by looking at a chart for the Nikkei, the SET, the SET, Stock Exchange Thailand, STI, the Straits Times Index, which tracks the top 30 by market cap companies in the Singaporean market. It's kind of a review preview format, moving into next week and looking at the tail end of last week. We started to see some pickup from the ongoing impact from the Trump trade effects and impacts, which is still an unknown. I think the word clarity I've heard in a couple of mainstream media analysis and discussions. Nobody has that. Nobody has any form of clarity, and you can see that being priced into the markets with increasing volatility, increasing uncertainty, and unfortunately, more or less decreasing SPX and Nasdaq for the traditional top 500 and stocks and companies, as well as technology. Anyway, the point also of this video is to show you the perspective of Asia, so that you can diversify your portfolio and wealth beyond the confines, not so much confines, but the perspective of US. So obviously, like Warren Buffett says, he said that in the darkest moments, never bet against America, and I fully agree with that. Some of my best investments and beliefs and values are actually deeply rooted in American companies. They are the gold standard, and they've certainly proven that. So I have successfully invested in Palantir, been there from day one, from the DPO, the direct public offering, when it was very unpopular, very unheard of, very contrarian. And I think that's the mentality. And you have to have the courage of your convictions, guys. You know, if you read the headlines, mainstream media, you will be in the 95% category. You have to be in the 5% to really understand where things are, where they will go, and that's how you make money, because this is capitalism. It's not socialism. And yeah, pretty much I'll share with you some thoughts, insights. We look at a macro picture, we look at some level of micro analysis in companies, no deep dives as of yet, but really just taking a holistic view. Want to look at it from a beginner, novice, not necessarily expert point of view. If you're an expert, I don't think you have much to learn here. If you're a CFA, etc. So great, you know it all, no need to watch. And like I said, if you are one of those people who like to say like, this is not like, you know, yeah, pretty much being negative or toxic, it's not really appreciated and it doesn't help anybody. So you can watch other content. And the purpose is really positive here. The purpose is to show different perspectives, not take any sides. I have a very neutral, unbiased perspective in general. So everything is very much data driven, but like I said, for 15 years of experience, plus an MBA, my numbers have proven very successful, and it's not a science. It's pretty much it's a mixture of human psychology and science and art. And I would say financial markets are as much about overcoming your own emotions and risk management as they are about technical knowledge, maths, science, etc. So without further ado, guys, it's been a long day for me, and there's been some mistakes with these videos, so I'll try to keep this one brief. But that's kind of the context. Learning as you go here, mixing in content from living in Asia. We've covered balance or cost of living. That shows you premium kind of goods and stuff. If you're thinking about living here, which is interesting because if you are interested in finance, if you're interested in investing, you're obviously interested in the cost of your own living. If you are so wealthy that you don't care, then probably you have a managed hedge fund, so you probably won't be interested in this either. So this is really for the DIY folks, people who get it in the sense that, you know, you can manage your own finances and personal finance. I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. I have no promises, no agenda, just sharing knowledge, some of my passion for different topics in my spare time. I'm not a YouTuber. I do this very much in my spare time when I ever have any, and I cover travel topics so far. And what I want to do is get more into some other parts of kind of like finance that can help people to maybe make you more financially secure or free. Because if yeah, I think there is a tendency for you know, you get people who try to miseducate, mislead, and if you are self-driven, I think you can do it yourself. And so anyway, let's go, guys. The Nikkei, the SET, and the STI last week, just quick wrap up of last week, was marginally, the Japanese market was marginally up, with the Thai market making some gains, as well as the Singaporean Straits Times. Well, both actually finished the week totally in the red, but Friday had a bit of a rally, with all indexes just, you know, having you know, STI was up 0.14%, is positive, not huge numbers, but most of the markets, these three large Asian markets, ending Friday for the day on a positive. We did get into like some of the historical view of this, that the Thai market was strongly underperforming. I did want to make the point and also correct myself that I was using the wrong inflation figures for Thailand. And on retrospect, over the past 24 hours, the Thai market itself has actually doesn't have as much inflation as I had seen in that chart. And the reasons for the economy and the market contraction over the past 2 years is less to do about inflation actually and interest rates, because both are coming down. The Thai central bank is managing that like any central bank would do. It's put the brakes on when inflation was rising, and it's taking the brakes off now as inflation is dissipating. We'll go into some of the calendar. We don't actually know. There's some announcements this week as we look to next week. In turn, we'll go into Singapore and Japan as well. So guys, yeah, slightly annoying as we've had some, like I said, audio visual issues. First of all, yesterday the video was not showing all the tabs. So really learning as I go here with the software that we're using. And now today we had some good insights, made a decent, good commentary and analysis on the video. Then I learned that the video sounded like a robot. So doing a take two. So yeah, thanks for listening and for tuning in. A lot of effort has gone in today into this. So yeah, thanks. So yeah, we'll start off. What we'll do is, this is the performance of the markets overall. Like we see, we'll get into some of the top companies that were covered in previous videos. Some of the companies that could be as viable or as profitable and interesting as some of the top US stocks that you probably have in your portfolio. So this will be good for diversification purposes. But let's just quickly crack into looking at some of the macro and then mainstream news headlines. So we'll start with Thailand. So in the last video, we saw Thailand coming down. Overall, the SET has been on a downward track since March 2023. And looking at, like I said, the inflationary pressures are not as pronounced as I claimed in the last video. So again, apologies, and do ignore that. So next week though, any catalysts that could, I would say, boost the market. So I would say the largest issue across the board outside of domestic Thailand and any Asian market for that matter, probably with the exception of China, which is so much kind of it's more insulated from the US than other economies. So I definitely would say Singapore, Thailand, and Japan in the context of this video. Whatever happens with Trump tariffs will have a huge effect outside of this calendar of events as a catalyst. So who knows what what will come up, what will be said, and based on that. I know it comes across as whimsical, but I do think he's very methodical and pragmatic, and I think for the most part, has made a very positive impact on the US and global direction. So hopefully term two is even greater than it was in the first term in terms of the boost for the financial markets. So let's see. But next week in Thailand, regardless of any Trump tariff decisions, the consumer confidence survey happened last week, but the balance of trade is happening next week, and beyond that, no, it's not. So nothing. There's no catalysts. My apologies, guys. I thought we were actually later in March than we are. There are actually no catalysts from a macro point of view next week on the calendar in terms of like inflation, industrial sentiment, PMIs, etc., business confidence. The only thing we had this week was Thai consumer confidence. Last week, apologies, which is lower, slightly lower in Feb, but it is increasing. It is increasing. And while we're on it, let's take a look at the interest rates for Thailand as well as the inflation. Like I said, I was remiss, so I would like to correct that. So, because I think the picture is much more bullish and brighter for Thailand, in the sense that the tourism boom that the economy will continue to experience will continue, and some of the perhaps negative impacts are on the automotive industry that Thailand has from EV, the growth of EV markets and competition. Tesla, BYD, VinFast in Vietnam, NIO, etc. So the growth of EV, the EV market is unprecedented. So it really depends on how major players like Toyota, who have a major impact on the Thai market, as well as the Japanese market, how fast they can adapt and grow to the ever-changing market, and in doing so, support the Thai economy, because a lot of jobs and production is based from the Japanese manufacturers. So, yeah, employment's coming down in Thailand, which is a good sign. Like I had said, inflation, totally wrong chart in trading view. Sticking to the numbers in trading economics, which, by the way, is a great site for getting a macro perspective on how economies in general are going, which can provide leading indicators. GDP, when you look at it in the headlines of mainstream media, is old news. You might read it today, but you're already behind the curve if you are just reading the headlines of GDP. This is not news. You need to look at leading indicators. So leading indicators in economies, which can have an impact on markets, are PMIs, are housing starts and building permits. So, you know, the people buying, the production managers in the industrial companies, the builders and constructors who are securing the permits for new building projects. This is all a sign of a growing or slowing economy. So you need to look out for that in advance. But if we're looking at like an economy as a person, typically you will get weighed and you will get your heart rate taken, then you get a blood test. So the GDP is like the heart rate. You know what it is now, but why is it like that? Have you got electrolyte deficiencies? You know, are you not fit? So that's all the questions you start asking later. But you know, if you already know you're fit, chances are you've got a good heartbeat. If you're already taking your electrolytes, chances are you've got a steady and good heart rate. So in an economic sense, what you need to do is you need to look at the leading indicators. You need to look at housing permits, you need to look at housing starts, and you need to look at the PMIs, and inevitably GDP will fall into place. That's a simple, there's more nuance obviously, but in a nutshell, that's a good starting point. You obviously need to take into account the unemployment rates, but it's all tied into a larger cycle, business cycle, that fits into what's known as the housing cycle, as well as the bond market and the equity markets. So a lot of books, guys, I might mention along the way to read. Robert Shiller, Rational Exuberance, The Good Society, and Ray Dalio's thoughts on the business cycle, also very, very interesting. And Howard Marks, The Most Important Thing. and measuring the market cycle. So very, very interesting and good books if you are a long-term minded investor. And it all ties everything together once you start looking at these charts. So you'll be able to match up a macro picture of how the global economy is doing. Then you'll be able to fit in sectorially, so in terms of the retail sector, finance sector, travel sector, and then you'll be able to, on a micro level, zoom into company performance and actually understand, is this company good or bad? And so it's a function of pretty much those three pieces. You know, it's like I said, it is an art and science, but once you understand a lot of these fundamentals, you will be able to control your psychology, you'll be able to control your risk, you'll be able to control your finance, and you'll be able to, in the longer term, control, like we live in a capitalistic society, you'll be able to have more financial freedom. So that's what I'm trying to impart in some of these videos, guys. And also, really, you're going to see there's so many influencers out there and YouTubers. This is not looking at the US markets. I'm not making any claims, just imparting some knowledge. I do have success over the years. So yeah, I'm not like publicizing everything, but you know, take it or leave it, up to you. And what I want to show you is really a perspective of, from an Asia perspective, or you know, opportunities in the Asia space across so many markets. We're looking at three of those today. So Thailand, inflation coming down, interest rates in Thailand also coming down. So yeah, that's a sign of a healthy economy, and it's also a sign that the central bank are aligned with the movements of the inflation in the country, and employment also coming down. So small risk of, you know, heating up, you know, but those are really positive signs. So we saw January, March, Jan, Feb, March 23, economy started to tail off. Well, the SET, the Stock Exchange Thailand, the index, it started to experience, it's pretty much gone into a large correction, right? So corrections are minor up to 20%, large up to 30%, borderline crash. Anything more than 30 to 50 is obviously a crash. It's been pronounced over the past 2 years, but if you just tie this in with the increasing interest rates, that can be a sign when central banks move to that effect of tightening the economy. You can see that in the stock market. So that tightening cycle went until 2023, and I would say that the economy is still feeling the impact of that tightening cycle to a degree. I do suspect that some of the, like I mentioned, the automotive sector, the competition from EVs is at play to a larger or to a smaller extent. But what is very positive in Thailand is the tourism and travel. It makes up a large proportion of the economy, up to 50-60%, which is continuing to improve. So the setup here, guys, is very strong. This isn't obviously for next week, and there's no catalysts for next week. So let's go into some quick headlines. So beyond the fact that there's no catalysts for next week, yeah, I don't expect, beyond the impact of Trump, yeah, it's very difficult to, you know, I'm not here to predict like short term, but I think the setup here, 6 to 12 months for Thailand, is very strong. So in the media, what's been talked about is the interest rate of 2% is robust for circumstances. So like we're talking about there, yes, I fully agree. Uh, like we saw with inflation dropping, in interest rates is, it's a tidy, well run, kind of, it's very much in line with inflation. And you see here the BOT in Thailand is expecting economic growth above 2.5%. So it's steady, steady Eddie. And there's no there's no big red flags on the horizon for any weakening. So I think it's a good setup, guys. So what I'd like to quickly show is the largest companies and some of the opportunities from an investment point of view that we were discussing were actually quite interesting. So in the travel segment, that's the airports of Thailand. That's a great company, well run, a lot of advantages, and what's the number 49 here in terms of market cap is the Bangkok Airways, or Bangkok Airways, should I say. And that's also is a real success story, not just in Thailand, but in the aviation segment as a whole. It's one of the highest performing airlines from a financial returns perspective in the public markets. It's beyond Ryanair, it's beyond the Jets ETF. Can quickly get into that, but we've been keeping an eye on this channel for these investments. Particularly bullish on the travel segment, and to capitalize on that, putting yourself into the well-run companies is AOT, is Bangkok Airways, and the other one, Mint Minor Hotel Group, which should be here somewhere. So we might take a deep dive into the hospitality segment and look at some of the players. So Minor International are huge, and it's moved in tandem pretty much with the overall set, which is downwards. But I think in the long run, guys, this is a very, very healthy and potentially lucrative investment. We saw the CEO from Burley Yucker in the previous video. We quoted it from the Bangkok Post. Shared some macroeconomic insights that the aging population in Thailand is a macro reason for kind of issues with the broader market, which makes sense. That was accurate in my analysis. But I think over the longer term, I think that's one to play out, right? I think that the aging population is potentially very negative, but that has no immediate. There is a correlation between the population, the population size, and the decrease over the last 2 years, but it's something to keep an eye on. But a lot of the other macroeconomic drivers, the interest rates, the inflation, the employment rate, as well as the demand in the economy, are all moving in the right direction. So very bullish in Thailand, guys. Very well-run companies here. Two segments is the travel sector that I just mentioned, and the other one, it's more or less retail, but CPALL, who have large brands such as 7-Eleven and Macro. So pretty much one of the largest retailers in Thailand and beyond. They have operations across Southeast Asia. They're in Cambodia, they're in Singapore, they're in pretty much everywhere. And that's very expansionary for the Thai market too. So that has been in decline in terms of the market cap since the pandemic, and also in lockstep with the set. But that's a very well-run company with strong business units, and I expect that to improve over time. But extremely bullish on the AOT, Airport Operations, Airports of Thailand, AOT. And here we go. Just looking at some of the headlines. Retail space in Thailand seeing recovery, says CBRE. So major retailers prepare for summer campaigns. So this has a net impact, net benefit on on CPALL. What I would say is that it would have a bigger impact on the likes of Central Group. Central Group they own a lot, maybe all of the, well, not all, but they own a large amount of the shopping malls, the Central Group. So Central Retail Corporation here. So if you're aware of the Tops markets in Thailand, they're very good, very modern, great products. So yeah, it looks like that's going to be a boost for the likes of Central Group. So interesting to see what happens there. And that should all have a positive impact on the Thai economy. And yeah, some of the headlines here just reinforces my point of view on the automotive transition and what's happening. So my hunch is this having, so it's calling it, in the headline says Thailand's automotive industry faces severe EV transition. So that will translate into less revenue and less sales and lower EPS for activity in Thailand, unless they are, appropriately switching and keeping, basically digitally transforming and transitioning their businesses to keep up with the EV revolution. So what's behind this? So more than 100,000 workforce at risk of redundancy. Thailand's automotive industry, a cornerstone of the national economy, is facing significant disruption as a global shift towards EV electric vehicles accelerates. So this just reinforces my point, guys. I wasn't speculating, this is fact. And this is what the mainstream media are reporting on. So 11% of the country's GDP and nearly 700,000 people, close to 1 million. So forecasted decline in Thai car production between 2025 and 2026, with a fall of 1.4 to 1.53 million units. So I identified that as one of the big impactors, one of the big catalysts, guys, overall. I see that as a negative, and this has been reported on in the mainstream business media. However, I am really bullish on the Thai tourism the tourism segment, and the ability of the likes of AOT, Bangkok Airways, Mint, Minor International, and local retailers to push the economy. But the industrial base here is really what the articles like this are pointing out. So this is from Kun Akanat Vatanasambat, the senior researcher at Chulalongkorn University. So he emphasizes the importance of occupational mapping, particularly in light of the EV transition. So people are being very thoughtful about this. They're raising the alarm bells, and yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, because if that overall investor mood, it switches the mood, that can have an impact on your investments, like indirectly. But overall, I do think that the likes of the tourism companies doing well. So yeah, those are some of the headlines now coming from Thailand that are impacting a business there in the next week or so. I would say just something going back to aviation. I think what's interesting there is that in Thailand it's made the news in both the National Thailand, as well as the Bangkok Post, regarding pilots, foreign pilots. It's this is the third most viewed article in the Bangkok Post. foreign pilots face acts on Thai flights, so which is sad. So what's going on here? So it's looking like, as the court accepts petition to revoke foreign pilot employment, in a nutshell, foreign pilots will not be able to pilot domestic Thai flights. So the Administrative Court has accepted the Thai Pilots Association petition to revoke the Labour Ministry's announcement permitting foreign nationals to serve as pilots. So the Thai Pilots Association has made a petition against, effectively, the Ministry of Labour's announcement permitting foreign nationals. So the Pilots Association essentially don't want foreign pilots flying on domestic routes. So they've actually made it an emergency decree. The Emergency Decree on Foreign Employment Administration, BE 2560, designates piloting as a profession exclusively reserved for Thai nationals. Okay, it's interesting because the shortage of pilots was seen as the reason, or the shortage of planes was initially deemed as the reason for allowing foreign pilots to fly. So, and the Labour Minister says foreigners shouldn't be needed by next year if aircraft shortage is resolved. So yeah, you kind of need to read between the lines, even though there is a petition. They're also saying that if the shortage decreases, there shouldn't be a need for basically foreign pilots. So this is impacting airlines such as Thai Vietjet, who use two aircraft under a wet lease agreement, in which pilots and crew are supplied under the aircraft. So these are very protectionist policies. So it shows you how difficult it is for foreigners to actually to get gainful employment in this region. So it is quite protected. And there you go. You can see pilots who are not who are being excluded basically from the workforce in Thailand. So yeah. Anyway, from an investment point of view, guys, the narrative for the likes of Bangkok Airways and the travel companies is very much intact, regardless of this pilot shortage. This has no material impact, and it's not a catalyst for any of this. It's nothing to do with that. So a slight rabbit hole, but interested in aviation, guys. So we will dig into that when we look at the sector. And yeah, some other headlines, kind of investor confidence in bearish zone on external factors. Okay. So the investor confidence index measured by the Federation of Thai Market Organizations, FETCO, retreated to the bearish zone from neutral due to a month earlier as international conflicts, inflation, and the local economic slowdown weigh on sentiment. Okay, so yes, there has been a lot of negative sentiment from the consumer side. There is ongoing international conflicts, which don't weigh in on the Thai economy that much, to be honest, and it has not in fact impacted their tourist economy, and inflation is improving. So I think 1 out of 3 things have a material impact. but this is accurate in the sense that confidence of retail investors, proprietary investors, and foreign investors was in the bearish. Yeah, that's fair, because overall I think international investors are bearish. Mostly, yeah, so for various reasons that I've already alluded to previously. But I'm still seeing it positively, guys. I see that the market, the Thai market, is in a, even though there's quite bearish headlines here, I think the setup is quite positive for Thailand. Not investing advice, just my own personal opinion. So, take it or leave it, guys. Anyway, that's a quick overview of what's going on in Thailand. So macro, some view of the pictures. Bangkok Post, great, good publication for keeping tabs what's going on in Thailand. Anything else there? Quickly before we move on, we'll move on to Singapore. Some brief pieces about gold and the Thai baht. Gold still has a very significant place in Thai society. There's a lot of gold shops, so it's very much valued in Thailand. So what's interesting in Thailand is I know many holidaymakers go there. What they've done is they are very restrictive on the use of alcohol between certain times. So what they've done in recent times is opened up areas for essentially keeping bars and open and selling alcohol in kind of special zones, particularly in Bangkok and Phuket, and they're seeing this as a boost to the economy. So if you look back at some of the companies you're looking at, Minor, etc., Mint, if you look at the hospitality groups, this is a positive. This is also a positive. What they're talking about here is lifting the between 2 and 5 p.m. The shutters go down on the alcohol sections in the stores, also in the restaurants. I have memories when living in Bangkok. I had some friends from the UK visit. I was quite excited. We all were to visit a craft beer bar. So I invited my friend and his fiance to the beer in the craft beer bar. We sat down and they said sorry. This was at 3 p.m. They said sorry. So you're going to have a lot of examples. That all adds up, guys, and I think that this is another catalyst. No idea when it could be happening, but I think it's smart because what they're saying here is modernizing alcohol regulations is not about promoting drinking, it's about promoting Thailand's economy, supporting businesses and ensuring that our tourism industry remains world class. I think that's well said, and I think that's accurate. What I would add to that is that overall, globally, there's been a downturn, especially in Gen Z, Gen X, whatever, the younger generations, consumption of alcohol. It's lessening. I myself held shares in Pernod Ricard and Diageo, who have probably the most exposure across modern brands, various, beer, wine, spirits, liqueurs, and the past 2 years, 3 years has been brutal. So overall, this is experiencing a negative. So I think it makes sense from a business point of view to be more flexible with these times, because they're going to miss a lot of business, and it's a smart move. And I think generally tourists are coming in from all over the world, and for the most part people are respectful. And I think you see that in the likes of Europe, some of the companies with a very liberal attitude on policy for alcohol also do very well, such as Spain. You go to a McDonald's and it's no big deal to get a cerveza, a San Miguel, for Australia Dam something. So I think that's smart. I think that's positive. So let's see how that plays out. And yeah, even looking at, so Thailand's even looking at private air travel, developing the private air travel industry. So lots of positive things happening in Thailand, guys. This is very interesting. So for the higher demographics, looking at like private jets and private travel, there's a lot of islands in Thailand. Flying in and out using private aircraft is ideal. Skipping the huge queues in the airports. But to be fair, in AOT manages the airport, and they're very well managed. It's a pleasant experience. Depends who you're traveling with, but mostly pleasant. And if you go on your own, of course, but also for business, whoever you're traveling with. Yeah, interesting look at the higher end value tourism there, guys. So Thailand, yeah, very bullish at the moment, both macroeconomic picture, demand all strengthening, great companies there. I'm digressing slightly now, guys. Let's quickly move on. Look at the Singaporean market. A lot of catalysts this week, actually. Monday, Tuesday. You've got some of the oil exports, balance of trade. Next week, even bigger. So big ones for Singapore are the core inflation, inflation rates, and interest rates. So overall, yeah, the picture in Thailand, the picture in Singapore. I think Singapore has been very insulated from the recent kind of tariff panics, etc. Also, if you look at the interest rates in Singapore, they've been gradually coming down. So they've been gradually coming down. And if we look at inflation, inflation's also coming down, I believe. So the inflation rate, there's just so much data here, you need to know where you're going in trading economics. So the inflation also coming down. So Singapore doing a pretty good job of balancing inflation and interest rates. And these are positive signs for the economy, guys. So as the interest rates decline, this will have a positive impact on some of the more tech-focused companies. So we looked at Grab and C Limited, were companies that I kind of called out in terms of being high performers with high potential, high risk but high potential. C has really delivered in terms of shareholder performance. Grab has not, and it's yet to be seen if they can cross the chasm of profitability, because their operating income is still negative. So if interest rates continue to decrease and Grab can improve its operating income and keep its business where it already is, that will be a positive outcome and result for investors who have held or are looking at it now. If those economic conditions change, we see some abrupt increase, anything recessionary, Grab is very high risk. Same picture with C, but C is more than a one-trick pony. It's got three strong business units in the sense that it's operating a fintech through C Money that operates in multiple markets. It's operating a multiple market e-commerce business through Shopee, and it's operating a multiple market gaming business, which is growing in popularity through Garena. I'm not a gamer, but I know it's very popular and it's becoming very lucrative. And if they can marry that up with increasing, monetization of gaming through crypto, through other means, digital assets, then there's a lot of potential here, guys, and who knows how they diversify the business if they're taking on an Amazon approach, looking at more IT, data centers. I think also given the fact that the management team, they have a very strong, under the CEO, Forrest Lee, they've shown and proven that they can fend off tough competition from TikTok Shop, particularly in Indonesia. They've shown that they can respond to higher interest rates and lowering costs to improve the operating margins, the operating income, and expand margin. So if you're an investor there, you're going to be very happy with the management and leadership's performance. So me personally, yes. The one big learning mistake for me was holding when rates were increasing, and at the time C was not profitable. So the share price absolutely plummeted, 80% plus. You can see the value market cap went from 200 billion to about 25. So absolutely destroyed. But in the past 2 years, if you had courage and vision, you could see that the business would weather the storms. And slowly but surely, they're on the right track. I would say a very similar story to Amazon back in the day. Nobody talks about this too much. It's very under the radar for some reason, but very well run company. I think it's mislabeled sometimes. It's not it's a Singaporean company. I would say it's homegrown, and maybe from a branding perspective, if it was just called Shopee, like Amazon is called Amazon, Google changed to Alphabet, but they're already had the game won. But I think if they name themselves just Shopee, the brand recognition, even for the investment, would be, it'd be a lot stronger. But anyway, that's just that's more of a speculative thought based on my marketing background as well. But C Limited there, guys. I would call it C Unlimited, unlimited blue ocean. Okay, maybe a bit too bullish. So anyway, guys, C Limited, C Unlimited, very strong. Grab, have my reservations, but cautiously optimistic. If the economy keeps going as it is, the financial groups in Singapore obviously very strong. You've got some operating REITs, real estate investment trusts, obviously Singapore Airlines. So all of the macroeconomic picture looks good. Let's quickly look at some of the all right, getting plastered with ads here, guys. Let's look at the Straits Times a bit. There has been some intra-regional MOUs signed between Singapore and Thailand. Interesting to see, with 5 packs covering e-commerce and other areas. So Singapore and Thai firms agree 5 packs. So agreed to deepen their trade and investment ties in areas such as cross-border e-commerce and fintech. So 5 memorandums. So what does that actually mean? There's been an exchange of IP, agri-trade investments, digital economy, intellectual property, carbon credits, and cruise tourism. Interesting on the cruise tourism. So that's another strength or boost to Thailand's ever-growing tourism segment. Have not seen so many cruise. That could be an interesting opportunity in Thailand. And like I mentioned, Shopee. Okay, Shopee Thailand and the Thai Ministry of Commerce, Department of International Trade Promotion agreed to market Thai products through a dedicated Thai store. Okay, interesting. So they're going to make a Thai store on Shopee's platform. That's cool. So you see, guys, back to my point about why I'm very bullish and optimistic about Sea Limited. You can see they're very pro-business, very open to innovation. So both politically through at the government level, and then obviously through their technology, they're being very proactive. So this is great. Yeah. So anyway, you can see that's quite positive. Yeah. So some good links there that's promoting both Thailand and Singapore. Under 35s are UOB's fastest growing card spenders, especially for traveling and dining. Okay. Well, this is kind of the point of this is to look at Singapore, but back to my point, I'm sure some of that leaks into Thai spenders as well, traveling and dining. But this does play into Grab, this trend. Grab business is very much like delivery of food. It's food delivery as well as transportation. So when you go to a destination, many people will actually from the airport order a Grab, get to their apartment, their condo, their hotel, and they will order food from Grab. So both domestic and foreign users of the app. So this is a boost obviously to Grab. Okay, some other stuff from money market funds. So yeah, we just looked at the Singapore stocks. So ended flat, mixed regional signals. Yeah, so everything we've talked about already, guys. And yeah, some headlines here just reflecting what I said. An untradable market. Trump sows profound uncertainty for stocks, which is what I've said regarding lack of clarity. And this is showing up in some of the reports as well from the Singapore business press. But for investors, such dizzying shifts have made the stock market in the early months of the Trump administration untradable. Said Mr. George Gonsalves, head of U.S. macro strategy at MUFG Securities. So I think that's a fair statement. Well, I wouldn't say untradeable. There's a lot of people selling, so which are trades. I would say unbuyable. I would call it the market has been unbuyable, not untradeable. So it goes on to say that the volatility does not make this easy. I agree. It's a challenging environment to have any conviction to hold a view. Yeah, I fully agree. If you've listened to me and looked at my reading of the economic and business fundamentals, both are positive. Like, in some cases, there's some weakness, but overall, there's no major red flags here. So I think what's happening is confusing a lot of people, particularly smart people. I think obviously, some people are always confused. It's good to be confused sometimes, but not all the time. Anyway, so what else has he said? Uncertainty is hard to price. Correct. I've also been saying that. It's hard to know what to price in at the moment. Everything is so whimsical. Yeah, even for consumers, if you're waiting and seeing and you're not buying a new car, going on vacation, if you're on business, you're not hiring or spending money. Yeah, I've never thought about that actually, because I've not been thinking about buying a car. But if you're making a big ticket investment, with so much unpredictability, you're going to be afraid. Yep, that's a very valid point. Airlines have already warned of lower travel bookings. Retailers have warned of stretched consumer finances. Okay, this is more US focused, guys. So, but it is based from the head of assets from the Asian business. But fully agree. A lot of uncertainty, too much, and I think I really think leadership need to do what they do to clear up a mess, but they also need to settle people's nerves, both investors and consumer nerves, because people are rightfully nervous. You know, you can't be confident all the time, otherwise you're just silly. You have a right to be nervous sometimes when people are being unclear and silly. So I think for the point of investors and consumers, just to create more confidence, they definitely need to show more clarity in what the leadership wants to do. All right, anyway, guys, so that's the quickly going through. I'm going through this, guys, again. Going through a lot. It's a long time. I spent a lot on this today. I'm still getting used to this. I'll edit out some nonsense. Over time, it'll get more alpha, less noise. Yeah, so looking into, nothing else big. Apart from the next 2 weeks, there's the interest rate announcements, or sorry, the core inflation. I wanted to quickly dig into this interesting article, which has an impact on both Thailand and Singapore, and it shows how the impact of the show White Lotus has been positive for high-end bookings for hotels in Koh Samui in Thailand. This came up in the Business Times from Singapore, not from the Thai media. And I thought this was Netflix, but it's actually HBO. I'm not a big TV watcher. I don't watch TV apart from sports events really in the news. If something good is on HBO, do very good series and documentaries. I've heard a lot about this, but haven't seen it. But this is another good example of how Thai tourism has been impacted by the media. This show, the White Lotus. Let me just. I have no idea what it is. Is it like The Hangover, or is it like The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio? Okay, it's a comedy, drama. Is it funny? I don't know. Is it self-contained miniseries? Each season of White Lotus, the most you can see, has a self-contained miniseries, which each season tells the story of guests and staff during a week spent at a luxury resort hotel chain. Wow, and the most recent one was in Thailand. Awesome. Okay, so that seems to be impacting positively the Thai economy. So back to the point about, AOT, Bangkok Airways, Minor International. This is great news for those companies, guys. So let's see. I think sometimes these are a bit of a pump for the shows themselves, but no harm done. I think that's interesting to read. One thing, if there's any people watching this from Singapore, I mentioned some of the leading indicators for economies being housing starts and building permits. We went through the interest rate and the inflation for Singapore, but when I look at the building permits for Singapore, it doesn't appear in trading economics. Building permits doesn't appear, or don't appear, neither does housing starts. So I can see not all countries are here, so its data is limited probably to several countries. Yeah, Asia is quite limited. Thailand, Japan, nothing for Africa, nothing for Australia. Okay, so it seems like Australia doesn't release housing starts. I find that interesting because it's a key data point to understand the the potential direction of an economy. Let me quickly look at building permits. I understand some of these regions are really limited land, so there's reasons for this. I looked at Japan, and Japan is just constantly in decline. It goes up and then down. I know there's limited land. That's my first guess. But yeah, any viewers who of the 8 people, hopefully there's more in this video, from Singapore. I'm just from a learning point of view, it's a two-way street. I share some interesting pieces, but maybe there's more advanced viewers who can explain why the building permits and housing starts are not listed for Singapore, or maybe also Australia. Okay, Australia building permits are there, but there's no housing starts. Interesting. Cool. All right, so we don't have that data, but anyway, Singapore, macro picture looks good. Some interesting news there, some very good MOUs between Thailand and Singapore being signed that has intra directions boosting the economies with the cruises, etc. So that's looking good. I'll quickly wrap up, guys, with Japan. I know this is a long one, and I've been recording a lot, but I felt like some interesting pieces there to share. Next week in Japan actually is quite a lot of important catalysts. You've got the Wednesday, the BOJ's interest rate decision, if they will lower or higher the effective interest rates. They've got balance of trade announcement. They've got the inflation rate on Friday. So yeah, as well as actually a lot of data points. Those are the key ones. Your stock investments from foreign investors, imports, machinery orders. Yeah, a lot of things happening in Japan next week in terms of potential macro catalysts. Want to zoom back out just to look at the overall market. The overall market reached its peak in Japan around July, before the yen carry trade crisis. It's briefly recovered, not to the same height, but it's been progressively zigzagging upwards. And until recently, really, this whole trade, I think there's been a lot of uncertainty. It seems like in Japan, since the inauguration of Trump, there's been a lot of uncertainty, and that's reflected here because the Nikkei has pretty much declined since Jan. Okay, let me just click on year to date. Yeah, 4%, 5% year to date. So that's why a lot of those articles expressing the need for more clarity would be very, very helpful. But what's at play in Japan? Let's take a quick look, more macro picture, then look at the micro things. So we see some inflation rate and interest rate decisions coming up. But Japan has got interesting, regarding rates. They historically had them very low or in minus for a long time. Let's take a look. So let's zoom out to about 10 years. Yeah, like you see, it was for such a long time because they have stagflation. It was minus, so a lot of stimulus needed. But only recently in 2024 did they begin to increase the inflation. So it seems like they put the brakes on hard. So will they reverse? Who knows? That's what's expected is a 5%. Yeah, just continuing it was at 0.025, now expected to be 5. So it actually did come in February or in January at 0.5%, and it's expected to be the same. So no change really, but let's take a look at the inflation in Japan. So inflation has increased, yeah. So they're not aggressively expanding interest rates, but I can see why there's, yeah, so the central bank are acting appropriately there. Increases in inflation. So there are some issues there. In terms of the Japanese economy, inflation is creeping up. Interest rates are high. So from a trading point, from an investing point of view, you know, this is, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And I think the companies that we called out, that we were looking at in Japan, very strong opportunities such as fast retailing. Uniqlo has a broad international exposure, so whether the increasing inflation has any impact is to be seen. But companies like the Shogo Sosa, like their trading houses, Marubeni, Mitsui, and then Tokyo Electron, which typically follows the silicon industry, the cycle. And companies like SoftBank also are very interesting in Japan. So yeah, I think that the Japan is one to watch. I do think that, like Tokyo Electron, for example, there's upside in there. But with inflation creeping up in Japan, I think that's more of a concerning sign in terms of demand. What I'd like to do is take a quick look at the consumer confidence and employment in Japan. So employment in Japan. Employment rate has been stable but low since 2021. So it's not increasing rapidly. And yeah, let's look at consumer confidence in Japan. Are people confident or not confident from a consumption point of view? Okay. Why is there no Japanese consumer confidence on this list? Okay, it's here. Okay, it's low. So it seems like since September 2024 or March 2024 that consumer confidence is ebbing lower. Let's take a look at business confidence. So it's progressing. So okay, nothing unusual there. Maybe let's look at the PMI. And then we'll take a look at some of the headlines in Japan, see if it matches up with any of the macro picture. So you can't find the PMI in this list. It's always somewhere else, unfortunately. Um, okay. It's very difficult to find the PMI, guys. I'm sure, yeah, here we go. So if you go with a company, country level, it's there, but not as a main indicator. Anyway, PMI is increasing. It's still under 50. General rule, if it's under 50 for 3 consecutive months, it's a contractionary sign for GDP. It's gone down, but then up, down, up, down. Let's see. So there's nothing particularly concerning other than, well, inflation is actually concerning in Japan. So that's one to watch. I think that Tokyo Electron, for example, is somewhat separate to some of this due to its globalized nature of its business. The same with Uniqlo, fast retailing, which effectively is Uniqlo. Their international business is very much in an expansion phase. So I think that those businesses will capitalize on the share price over time based on this. On the flip side, like we talk about EVs and Toyota in Thailand, this is the number one, almost 250 billion market cap in Japan, top of the biggest market cap country in Japan. I think the EV transitions is interesting time for Toyota. So let's see how that plays out. Yep, that's what I would say here. I haven't done a deep dive into it, but that's something that definitely needs to be managed. Well, more than managed, it needs to be strongly kind of adapted to, in order to basically to survive and thrive as a company as it is today. Yeah, so not going into this now, but yeah, some other key organizations there. SoftBank, obviously, really at the heart of technology. So anyway, guys, that's it from the macro point of view. So what are the papers saying? Pretty much basketball, baseball tickets for 10,000. Yeah, I thought that Premier League tickets were bad. That's pretty insane. 10,000 for a baseball game. I think what's interesting in Japan is the Osaka Expo. So the hotels are getting a huge boost from the Osaka Expo 2025. So the Kansai region. What's interesting there, guys, as well, is that a lot of some airlines in Thailand as well, obviously linking to the Kansai, Osaka, is the impact of the air connectivity for these events has a huge impact for the local economy. So this will be good for Japan, but also good for the airlines that are operating here. You know, you'll have probably, you know, Air Asia, Thai Vietjet, some of the other, a lot of the low cost Scoot from Singapore. This will be a real boost for the airlines as well in the region. So that's in October, so bookings will happen over the coming months as the event gets closer, but people will plan and book from now effectively. Yeah, nothing major in the Nikkei Asia about Japan. Yeah, no catalysts. We got the macro catalysts from the inflation rate announcements, interest rate announcements. What's interesting is the order. The interest rate announcement is before the inflation rate announcement. What if the inflation is massively higher and they don't decrease the rate? Yeah, I'm sure it's more thought through than that, but anyway. I think what we're seeing in the Japan Times is news from Trump, or the administration, just the US, ruling out any tariff exemptions for Japan. So that would undoubtedly have an impact on Toyota. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick linked the 25% tariffs on car imports set to begin on April 2nd to cutting the US trade deficit with Japan. So yeah, that's obviously something negative for Toyota. And over the last, let's look at this in trading view. So, interestingly, it started increasing in the last week or so. Well, under the overall Nikkei. Yeah, it's been quite, as you can see, it's quite linked in the past month with the Nikkei. Then it broke away. So it's actually outperformed in the last month the overall Japanese index. And it's been up, down, but overall outperformed the Japanese market. All right, so nothing we didn't really anticipate there. The automotive sector is at risk, not just from any tariffs. I think more so from this EV transition, and their ability to innovate is the big key. And nothing in the Japan Times that's really of interest, or like that we could see as catalysts. Like I said, guys, a lot of mainstream media is old news. You got to look at leading indicators. You got to look at the financial statements. You got to look at what's happening with the revenue in companies and their guidance statements. What's good from the 4K statements in the US companies is that they have very good guidance. If you read the details of the guidance rather than a journalist's point of view, you can really understand the direction of a company or lack of, and not get misled by some agenda-ridden publication or journalist. I'm not saying they are agenda-ridden, but you can hear conflicts in what people say and what the data says. So, so also in the Japanese media, business media, so the fear rocking the market, so uncertainty. So basically, fear and greed are two of the major emotions in psychology for investing. And predominantly we're having a moment of extreme fear. If you beginners is fear and greed index. But otherwise, let's hope that we see less and less. Some interesting pieces about the Japanese conglomerates that taught you, like diversifying. Nothing really major happening apart from macro announcements. So guys, I'm going to wrap up. It was a pleasure just bring you on this kind of learning journey through financial markets in Japan, Thailand. and Singapore with a very, I would say, long and dirty, not quick and dirty overview. And I hope you stick with me for as we progress. I hope to make this more concise, I'll improve as we go along, and yeah, bring you some useful insights to help you to create a better investor, financial mindset, help you make smarter decisions or decisions about Asia, and give you insights about Asia that you may not have known about. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. So thanks a lot, and hope to see you in the next one.